Hi guys, I'm Profitz from Profitz.com. Welcome to another video in my gold making series working with Trade Skill Master. In this video we're specifically going to talk about operations in the auctioning function. So let's get started. So let's open up Trade Skill Master, as always, /TSM, short for Trade Skill Master, or click on the mini-map icon, upper right hand corner, left click on that, and it'll open up your friendly Trade Skill Master window. From here, click on the Groups tab, upper left-hand corner, the little crystals, and then again click on one of your groups that we're going to be creating an operation for, specifically auctioning. So from here, I'm going to click on my flipping group. You can click on any one of your groups, or we can create a test group. Let's create a test group instead. So I'm going to click on Groups, top level. I'm going to do Testing Auctioning Operations. Click on OK. So here's my group. I'm going to left click on that group, and then it opens up 4 tabs. 3 of them, or 2 of them, you should already be familiar with. Almost 3. You should be familiar with my former video on management. You should be familiar with the former video on importing and exporting. You should be familiar a little bit or have seen this tab about moving items in and out of groups or subgroups. And now the Operations tab. This is the guts of everything that Trade Skill Master can do when it comes to operations or rules, or more simply put, actions against your groups and subgroups. Operations is what it's called. So from here, we're specifically going to be talking about the top one called auctioning. In the auctioning tab, or the auctioning function, it allows us to basically sell things back to the auction house. Auctioning means selling. So when I first go into this group, I created a group. Notice there's no operation. It says no operation is currently assigned to this group because it's new. To create an operation for auctioning, there's a button that says Create Auctioning Operation. When we click this button, it's going to ask us to name it. This is very important, almost like naming a group. You want to name it something so you know if you're looking at that operation later in a drop-down list, which will show you, you know what the hell the thing does. So from here, we're just going to call it Test Auctioning Operation, just like we named the group. I typically name them the same. Here's all my operations. Some of them you've probably seen in former videos. I name them the same as the group. You can hit Enter or hit the OK button, left click on that. And then it's going to ask a very important question. It's going to say, yes or no, do you want to link the operation, the auctioning operation that you just created, to the group that you just came from? You want to click yes. By doing this, it will automatically assign the operation to the group, which is what you want to do. So click yes. Now notice if we go back to the Groups tab, up at the very top, the Groups function, left click on that icon, find your group that you just created, and notice now if we look underneath auctioning, instead of saying no operation, it's saying the operation that you just called it. Notice again I called my operation the same as the group, just to keep it in sync. I know what's going on with my groups. From here we want to go into the actual operation or the rule and tell it a little bit more intelligence of what to do with this group. So now we can click the View Operations Options button, and that will bring us into a different window that we're not used to seeing before, with multiple tabs across the top. The tab that we're going to focus on right now is called Post. It's the second tab. Notice you have General, Post, Cancel, Reset, Relationships, and Management. For this purpose of this video, we're exclusively talking about Post, which means we want to get items up in the auction house so you can make gold. So if we click on the left tab that says Post, left click on that, we have this section that we can now start defining the functionality within this operation, or define the rules that we want this group to adhere to when we have items in it. So for now, let's start from the top down and talk about what these things are. Duration. You're probably familiar with this. Even with the default native UI for the auction house, this basically talks about how long you want your items listed for on the auction house. You have 12, 24, and 48 hours. Notice it defaults in the middle to 24 hours. Keep in mind, if you're short on gold, or if the market that you're in is volatile, which means it's a very aggressive market. Let's take, for instance, glyphs. You want to be careful of what you list for. If you list it for 48 hours, it's going to cost you a little bit more gold to list based upon the price of the item that you're listing, the price that you're asking for. Notice if I go to 12 hours, it's going to be a lot less than 24 and likewise a lot less than 48. So adjust this accordingly. By default, it's right in the middle, and typically I keep things at 24 hours. Post cap basically means how many of the same items do you want to list on the auction house, if you have them, at the same time. So let's say I have 3 baseball bats, just to talk about an item. Not that there's baseball bats in game, but let's just say we have 3 baseball bats. All right. You want to bring it to medieval times. Let's say we have 3 two-handed great swords. This will allow us by default, if I have 3 of them in my bag, it will only list 1 at a time. If I wanted to list 3 at a time, all 3 great swords, left click in there, so it's highlighting, delete the 1 rather, and type 3, hit enter. Notice that now it will take all of the items that I have in up to 3 and list them in the auction house per operation that I process on the auction house through posting. Next is stack size. With a great sword, you can't stack stacks of swords on top of each other. That's not how it works. But for instance, with ore or herbs, you can. Or pigments for inscription and so forth. You can stack those. So this is the stack size, basically meaning eaches. If you have stack sizes larger, you can put this to 20 if you're talking about other types of ore or things like that. I typically default it to 1 if it's an item. If it's a stack size, then you want to adjust the stack size accordingly. From here is keep quantity, how many of the items you want to keep in your bag. Notice too, if you hover over any of these, it does give you tooltips. You can see the tooltips coming over. Keep quantity, how many items you want to keep in your bags and not have auctioning posts. So just to keep items back, restricted, or control your posting. These are pretty much default. I pretty much keep these default. I keep the duration 24 hours default. Post cap is definitely what I change based upon the item. Next, we go to bid percentage. This, when you buy an item, notice that it has a bid and a buyout. The bid is typically the lowest of the value. If you keep this at 100%, let's say you're selling an item for 100 gold, the bid would be 100 gold and the buyout would be 100 gold. Typically, people change this to 95 to 97%. So basically what that means is it would take 100 gold and it would take 95% of that, and that would be the bid amount. Kind of entice someone to say, hey, it's a little bit lower if you wanted to do the bid for 24 hours or if you just wanted to buy it out. Kind of offsets the pricing a little bit pleasing to the eyes when you're looking at items on the auction house. The next is undercut amount. As it mentions here, typically this is defaulted to 1 copper, which means if someone's selling an item for 100 gold and you have the same item and you're trying to post it, it's not going to sell it at 100 gold, it's going to sell it at 99 gold, 99 silver, 99 copper, undercutting by 1 copper. You can change this to any amount you want. I recommend keeping it by default. Some people play with this so they kind of have their own pricing unique. If you wanted to change this, notice there's a C there. So you guessed it, if you wanted to do 1G, this is only example, I do not recommend this. If you do 1G, notice it changes the color. You always want to make sure you have the designation of the coin value there. If I just do 1, notice it's not going to be correct. You want to know 1G, or you wanted to do 1S for silver. Notice the color change. 1C for copper. We're going to keep it at 1 copper, which is a default. The next important part are posting price settings. Very, very important. If anything on this page right now, these next 3 fields are the most important fields of all of them that are listed. This is what's going to determine your profit, guys. So make sure you know accurate pricing to put in here. Notice by default it's going to go to 5 gold, 500 gold, 100 gold. There's 3 values that we're talking about. Minimum price, maximum, and yes, normal. The minimum price is how low we want to actually sell the item for. What do we want to let it go for at the bottom line? 5 gold is what we want to let it go for. Again, if you wanted to change this, this is going to change per group, potentially, per item in those groups, depending on how granular you get. I'll show you some examples right now. In my 77 to 80 group, if I click on that operation and I go to post, notice it's 70 gold, 500 gold, 224 gold. Whereas if I go to my Dark Moon Fair Shoulders, left click on that operation, go to post, notice it's 521, 2250, and 1250. Again, you got to know the value of prices, and we'll talk about that in another video about how to determine price sources, how to get accurate pricing information, and how to keep your prices up to date using the Trade Skill Master application. So going back to our group in the Post tab, we can change these values to be whatever we want. So let's say, again, we're using an example as our greatsword. My greatsword, I don't want to sell it for less than 100 gold. Notice 100G space 50S 10C. I don't want it to let it go for 100 gold, 50 silver, 10 copper. You don't have to get that detailed if you want. It's okay to say 100 gold. You don't have to list the coppers and the silvers if you don't want to. So I want to let it go for a minimum of 100, but the normal price, I want to sell it for 325 gold. Again, you can just left click on the fields. Notice anytime I click on the fields, it's asking for the OK button, meaning I'm modifying that field. 325 gold. I can hit the enter key and it takes, or I can hit the OK button and it takes. Again, always visually validate that the coin color is showing, and that shows that it took the field properly. If it doesn't show up there, you want to make sure you go back in and edit the fields properly, because things might not be working as planned, which means if you post something using this operation of auctioning, you could lose money potentially, or lose items that are worth a lot more than what you have them listed for. This changes, of course, when you don't use values. You're using percentages. Let's see if I have a percentage item here to show you. For instance, in my transmog, specifically for jade pieces, notice there's no copper value at all. I'm using multiple source prices or pricing sources. WoW auction, DB market, and I'm using percentages. But notice in my minimum I still have a fixed rate. These we'll get more into another video about advanced prices and pricing sources. For now, for this video, to keep it simple, we're hard coding prices, which means these are the values that it's going to stick by. Maximum price, let's say I want it to go over 1,000 gold, 1,000 G. You just enter the values there, make sure that the prices are listed the way you want them. The next two fields are probably the second most important, and that's what you want to do if two things happen. One, the value of the great sword, someone else has listed it, and it's below your minimum price. Let's say they're selling it for 75 gold. What do you want to do? And the other one is, what do you want to do if it's above your price? Someone's listing a great sword for 5,000 gold. What do you want to do? Here's some things to think about. By default, it says don't post the item when we're talking about minimum. When it's below your minimum price, don't post the item, which means it's going to stay in your bag. You have some options here. You could ignore auctions below minimum, do what you want with them. Post it at your normal price, which means if someone lists it for 75 gold, I don't care. I still want to post it at my normal price, which is 325. By normal, if the items are not listed in the auction house, it will default to your normal price. Otherwise, it will undercut people by 1 copper all the way down to 100 gold. The moment it goes underneath 99 gold, 99 silver, 99 copper, we're hitting this below minimum action that you want to do. Default, keep it in your bag. Otherwise, post it at your normal price. Post it at your minimum price. Post them at your maximum price. What I do and what I recommend is the default option. Keep it in your bag and you can manually make an intelligent decision. Next is maximum. If it's above 1,000 gold, or whatever your maximum price is, again, someone's highballing the sword, maybe to try to drive up prices. Keep that in mind. Let me say that again. They're going to increase the value of the item on the auction house to increase prices, try to inflate the price above, way above what it would normally sell for, just to fool people who use a lot of auctioning applications and don't think about what they're buying or selling. So when above maximum price, it's saying, no, I'm not going to fall for your game. I know the item would never sell for 5,000 gold. I'm not going to pay an increased fee to list the item on the auction house. I'm going to post it at what it's really worth, 325 gold. That's the default. That's what I recommend. Again, you also have the ability to say, all right, post it at my minimum price if it's above 1,000, or post it at my maximum price. If it's 5,000, nah, my prices are more realistic. Let's keep it at 1,000. That's the highest I know that it will sell for. Let me say that again. It's the highest I know that the item will sell for. Again, you want to sell items, guys. You don't want to just go through collecting items from your mailbox and relisting them. You want to sell the items so you can make gold and profit. So keep that to post at normal price. And then you're up and running. That's actually your first post or your operation. Let's go back to the groups. Remember how to get there? Click on the crystal symbol at the top. Click on your group that you created and your operations. So there we go. We just created our very first auctioning operation. Auctioning meaning selling on the auction house. And again, to view that, we can left click on the view operations. We only focused on the post tab. Click on that. And then we defined our prices that are in here. Now anything that is in this subgroup or in this group, parent group, will now fall underneath that operation or that rule. Which means anytime I go to the auction house and I start to do post scans, it's going to determine these items and apply these rules or actions, TSM terms, operations to them. Specifically, only auctioning we're talking about in this video. So that's it. That's exclusively the operation auctioning function. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. The next time we'll get into the second most important video for me in regards to operations would be shopping, which means we're buying things from the auction house. Auctioning is selling, shopping is buying. So until then, guys, again, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you appreciated it. Feel free to thumbs up, leave a comment below, and I look forward to hearing from you soon in the next video. Thank you for your time. Happy earnings.